So we'll go ahead and get started to be respectful of your time. On behalf of the Office of Alumni Relations, welcome to our first ever virtual event. We are so excited to be partnering with the Office of Career and Professional Development, and we're excited that you are spending a little bit of your day with us. My name is Julia Couch. I just started with the Alumni Relations team in April. I'm a 2016 Belmont grad, and I work primarily with communications and young alumni engagement with the Alumni Association. And I am going to kick it over to Rachel Walden to introduce herself and then our panelists.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Rachel Walden. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of Career and Professional Development at Belmont. And in our office, we work with career clusters so that we're able to really provide individual advice to students and alumni. Our office does serve alumni for life, so if you're joining us, please know that we are a resource for you. I'm sure we'll mention several things throughout the call that you can utilize as alums. But my career cluster is arts, communication, and technology. So I work with students and alumni whose majors and industry interests fall under that category. And I started at Belmont in 2010. I graduated from my undergraduate program in 2008, right into the last recession. And so I have a lot of empathy for those of you who have just graduated and maybe have been laid off and are job searching. I know it's really hard, but know that we're here for you as a resource, and hopefully today you'll gain some helpful tips and information to help with your search. And I will turn it over to Nina Woodard.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm Nina Woodard, and I'm also with the Office of Career and Professional Development. I've been at Belmont since 2017, so coming up on my 3-year anniversary. Prior to that, I worked in the music industry for almost 25 years. I worked for Provident Label Group, which is the Christian music division of Sony here in Nashville. And my colleague, Caroline Rupert, and I have responsibility for all of our entertainment industry majors and alumni. She has a background in publishing, and both of our spouses happen to be independent musicians. And I share that because a job search in any time in entertainment is a little bit different than some other areas, and particularly for individuals that are pursuing a more creative path. It's a different thing. And so the fact that she and I both have personal experience with a very non-traditional pursuit in entertainment, I think is an asset to Belmont and something that we hope we can utilize through even our conversation today.
And hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Zola, and I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. I am the founder and president of the Knight Agency, Inc., which is a boutique recruiting and career development agency based in Nashville. I work primarily with the entertainment and music industry here in Nashville for recruiting purposes and career development purposes. But prior to starting this agency, I worked in traditional recruiting, where I worked with clients in marketing, general business, IT, both on like general IT and the programming side as well. So still very well versed in other things besides the music industry, but very excited to work in the music industry. I'm also an adjunct professor within the Curb College. I teach the intro to internships class to help students prepare for those first internships within the industry, covering everything from resume and interview prep to career-focused planning. What does this all look like once we're out of Belmont? How do we take all of these great classes and internships and put it together to start a great first job after we graduate? I am also an alum of Belmont. I graduated from the Curb College in 2012 when the recession was over, but the economy was still very much bouncing back from a jobs perspective. And like I always share, I think Music Row hired 2 people the summer I graduated, and I had to completely change my entire focus on what I thought I was going to be doing, and it ended up serving me really well. So my heart is with all of you who are in a different position today than you thought you would be even just a couple of months ago, and really hoping to be of help in some way today.
Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and jump right in with our questions. My first question, how should someone begin their job search in this current market? Where do you even begin?
I'll start with something that may seem kind of basic. Whether it's a pandemic or not, there really are a lot of things about the process that are not any different. And the first place to start with your job search is having a real clear understanding of where you want to work. A lot of times I'll meet with students or alums and asking questions, well, what do you want to do? And again, I work primarily with entertainment industry job seekers. And sometimes I'll hear an answer like, well, I'll just do anything to get started. And I would say that openness and attitude is fantastic. That's absolutely something that you want to maintain, particularly in an area or it's a season in the market where you might have to pivot just a little bit from your A plan. Openness and attitude is fantastic, but it's really difficult to be so broad in a job search because you don't really know what you're looking for. You don't know what sites to be checking out. You don't know what relationships are going to be most valuable to you. You don't even really know sometimes what skills that you need. So I would say the first place to start with your job search is identifying where you want to work.
So that's kind of leads me into my next question. How broad or narrow should an entry-level job search be if you've just graduated and you are entering the workforce for the first time?
I would say right now, under our current conditions, being incredibly open-minded to what that first job may look like is going to be really important. Because what you ideally may be looking for may not be available right now. It might be, and you definitely still want to pursue that, but I think you are able to have clear categories of these are different types of entry-level jobs that I think that I could be great at, that my skill sets match up, that my education match up, that my internship experience matches up with. And these are like the ideal companies that I would love to work for, and these are the ideal jobs that I think I would be great for. But then having another list of these are other jobs that I know I'm capable of doing. This may not be what I want to do forever, but if the ideal list is not available and the ideal list is not working out, but there are opportunities on that B list, we'll call it, of jobs that will serve you, get you financially what you need right now to survive through this pandemic, give you great networking opportunities, and also help you continue to build professional skill sets. Every job is a good job to get you where you want to go ultimately. It may not be your forever job, but you will take very valuable lessons away from it. So I think keeping an open mind to whatever your industry is, and then what are jobs in other industries that you're interested in that your skill sets could also apply to, so that that opens you up to even more opportunities that you could potentially apply to.
Awesome. What advice would you give an alum who is considering graduate school as a result of the pandemic?
I've been getting this question a lot. I think sometimes we can panic and think, well, I'm not getting a job because I'm third in line behind people with experience who've been laid off, and maybe there are other graduates or internal people who are applying for these positions that have more skills and experience than I do. And so I think I should probably go back to graduate school to get more knowledge. And I think I would say, start with considering where you want to be, like Nina and Rachel have already said. What is it you want to do? Do you need a graduate degree to do that job? Because if not, you're really investing time and years into pursuing something that may or may not benefit you for the job that you want. I would say, graduate school, it's great. I think furthering your education is really important, but making sure it's something that you really want to do and it's something you need. And I think you can determine that by talking with previous professors you've had, our career development team, people you know in the industry in which you want to work, people that you've met through internships, getting their advice about that. And you might find out that there are things you can do in the meantime that mean continue learning and skill development through micro-learning or finding free resources or areas to brush up on your technical skills that don't require you to invest in a 2+ year degree.
Awesome. This next question, we'll kick it over to Nina or Rachel Zola. What are key tips for resumes in your field? I know Nina mentioned that the creative, entertainment, music side is a little bit different. So what are some tips for resumes?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, make sure you are thinking about the end user. A songwriter, for instance, is not necessarily going to need a resume to get a co-write. That's a different tool. A songwriter might need a resume focusing on professional skills if they are trying to get a receptionist position at a music publishing company or a PRO. So you always want to think about the end goal and think about the tools that you really need to help you achieve that goal. So a business resume, even for a creative pursuit, is going to focus on those business skills that you gained through your internships, through really any kind of experience. Sometimes that's a common misconception, that experience has to be something as formal as an internship or something that you've been paid for. Experience is experience, and really for whatever opportunity that you're going for, you want to think about what is going to be most relevant and what is going to help communicate to that potential employer that I am the candidate that they are looking for. And it really doesn't matter if it's paid, unpaid, internship, volunteer, any of that. All that matters is if it's relevant and that you are communicating the highest level skill set possible. Positions like, service industry or retail, different things like that, even if they aren't relevant to the specific industry that you're hoping to work in, those still capture a tremendous amount of professional experience, things that employers are looking for in terms of customer service, the ability to communicate and interact with people in a retail capacity, in a sales capacity, even things like, if you worked at a camp for the summer, that is a leadership skill, and that you are teaching and mentoring. So you just want to think about how you're framing your experience. If it's creative, you want to talk about the business connected to your creative, not necessarily how many songs you wrote, how many people you performed in front of. If it is more service industry or not relevant, you want to make sure that you're capturing high level skills like customer service, sales, leadership, training, teaching, mentoring, not brought food out to customers at a table. We kind of know you did that if you were in the service industry. So those are some broad things I would suggest maybe. And then Rachel, I know you have a million other fantastic suggestions from looking at resumes all day, every day.
I do look at a lot of resumes every day. I will say very quickly though, one of the best worksheets that I've ever seen for constructing a resume in the entertainment and music industry, but really I think it could be used in a variety of industries, is in Nina's office, and it is free. So I'm sure if you email her, she will mail it to you. It's this amazing resume checklist. I give it to all of my students. It's a part of their assignment because I just agree completely with everything that's on that worksheet. So free resources like that do exist. Please reach out to whatever college you belong to, your career service rep. They will be happy to send you a slew of tips. But I think it's really important to remember that before the pandemic, resume scanners existed. Now, because of the pandemic and so many more people being active in the job market, resume scanners are a recruiter or an HR manager's best friend right now. I don't love them. I don't love the tactic of putting people's resume through a scanner and scanning for keywords, and a percentage of those keywords has to be on there to say this person may be qualified, take a look at them further. But the reality is, when you have over 1,000 people a day applying for jobs right now, it is a tool that's being used. So you really need to tailor your resume to every single job that you are applying to. Not lie. Don't put things on there if you haven't actually done it before, but really ask yourself, how am I wording these bullet points? And word them similarly to the job description that you are applying to. So if your resume gets put through that scanner, those words get pinged in your favor for you. And an activity that I tell people to do all the time is take 3 highlighters of different colors. I like red, yellow, and green because it's like a stoplight. And you go through that job description and you highlight in green everything that you've done before, whether it be in class, internships, or previous employment or current employment, and you feel confident that you can step into this potential job and hit the ground running day one. That's what you highlight in green. In yellow, you highlight things that maybe you know about, maybe you've had a little bit of experience with, but you wouldn't say that you're completely proficient in it. You're probably going to need a little bit more training on that. Hire those skill sets and requirements in yellow. And then in red, you highlight things that are new opportunities for growth, things you've never done before, you've never been introduced to, and that gets highlighted in red. Anything that's in green and yellow needs to be on your resume as a bullet point to show that you have the competency from a skill set perspective to take this job on. And those red things, when they get asked, what are some things that concern you about this job, or everyone's all-time favorite question, what's your greatest weakness? We can spin that to be a positive of an opportunity for growth would be, I've never used this particular software system that your company uses that's on the job description, but I've been researching it and I feel confident in my ability to be trained very quickly on it, but I do want to be honest that I haven't used that before. And that's where those red things, that can help you put a positive spin on that weakness question, and also make it incredibly focused to the company that you're talking to, as opposed to a more broad general quote unquote weakness. And then I would just say, lastly, for entertainment, we don't need your picture on your resume, as beautiful as you all are. That is not appropriate on a resume, and we don't need it. Be careful of your color choices, because please remember that, especially with people working from home right now, we're looking at resumes on computer screens. So neon yellows, really any neon color does not belong on your resume. And if you are graphic design or anything creative, please make sure that you have a link on your resume to a digital portfolio. I should not have to ask you for that. That should be included in your resume, and that will be a part of my consideration overview when I'm reviewing your resume. I'm also going to take a look at that. So if it's on your resume and you haven't updated that website recently, make sure before you send that resume out that that digital online website portfolio is updated with your best, most current works, because we will take a look at them.
Those are awesome points. Thank you, Rachel. My next question is about cover letters. What is the best approach, and do they matter today?
I would say they absolutely do matter. The cover letter, it really serves as an introduction to your resume and your experience, and allows you to relate what you've done, your experience, your skills to the position to which you're applying, and explaining why you want to work for that particular company. It's also going to showcase your writing skills, which is important in any job, especially in my cluster where I'm working with a lot of communications, English, journalism, PR majors. Writing is one thing that they're going to be looking for. How well can you relay your point and tell a story about why you're a good fit and why you want to work for that particular company?
Where do you go about finding job postings in your field? I know that there are so many websites and that can be a really overwhelming process. And what are some other ways that someone might go about finding open opportunities?
Well, first, I would say the unfortunate reality is less than 50% of the jobs, any industry, but less than 50% of jobs are ever going to be posted anywhere. So networking, relationships, being in community with people that are doing the types of things that you are interested in doing is really the number one way to find out about jobs. But in a season where a lot of the job search process is having to take place kind of in a more formal fashion from behind a computer screen, I would say the number one place a company is going to post a position, if they're going to post at all, is going to be their company website. So again, having a sense of places that you're interested in working is really important because you want to get into a practice of checking those websites really regularly. Today, there may not be anything. Tomorrow, a month from now, there may be 2 or 3 fantastic positions, and you want to make sure that you're catching those positions as soon as they are posted, because they may only stay up a few days. You know, if they get 1,000 applications within the first 48 hours, that recruiter may pull that position down feeling pretty confident that they have the candidates somewhere in that pool. So you want to make sure you're catching those postings on a really regular basis. I would say if a company is going to post anywhere other than their own website, LinkedIn is probably the next place that they would post. So having a really healthy understanding of how to utilize that resource and how to search for jobs. LinkedIn can be tricky. It is, it's so vast. So it's really about understanding how to use your search filters to narrow down your search enough to small enough groups that you can actually process what you're looking at. You know, if you put in Nashville today, even in the midst of this market, there may still be 40,000 jobs posted, which sounds great until you're trying to process through 40,000 jobs. You can't really find anything with that kind of a number. But you also don't want to search in a way that you're getting so specific that you trick the computer. At the end of the day, it is a computer algorithm, and the computer's definition of music publishing is not going to match what your understanding of music publishing is going to be. So without kind of diverting too far into LinkedIn, you know, a path that I typically suggest is going into the filters. Obviously, I'm putting in what city you're looking in. You may or may not be looking in Nashville. So you can use LinkedIn to search for multiple markets, and then going into industry and customizing down on the industry that you're looking for. For entertainment, I would typically suggest picking up, there is an entertainment industry filter. There's also a music filter. There's a performing arts filter. And typically placing those 3 industry filters plus location, plus if you're looking for an entry-level position, associate, you know, really whatever level that you are, and applying those filters can give you a pretty good snapshot of what is happening in the marketplace. So LinkedIn, you know, then I would say places like Monster, Glassdoor, Indeed, you know, you can utilize those. Truth be told, for entertainment, they're probably not going to be terribly valuable, but it can't hurt to have one more of those in your mix. Entertainmentcareers.net is a site that we suggest for entertainment, that you can search multiple markets, multiple levels of jobs. There's a free tier and a paid tier. Honestly, I wouldn't advise spending the money on the paid tier today because there's probably not enough in the system to justify it. But the minute that you start to feel the market turn, that could be a great resource for you to consider. Also here in Nashville, musicrow.com is a trade publication that has a great little resource on the back end of it, sometimes for classified positions. And then know your field. There are Facebook groups, there are trade organizations. Here in Nashville, there's an organization called Young Entertainment Professionals. Solid, there's lots of places where sometimes jobs will get passed around in more of a viral way. So make sure you're in community with people doing the things that you want to do, because that's a fantastic way to get word of mouth opportunities.
Awesome. So you mentioned networking. Obviously that looks a little bit different nowadays. So tell us how networking factors into the job search, especially during a pandemic, and what does that look like right now?
Yeah, I think now more than ever, we're going to start truly seeing the power of networking. It was a huge part of the job search process before the pandemic, but now with layoffs happening and job boards being completely overrun with more people in job search mode than we have seen in a really long time, who your contacts are matter now more than they've ever mattered. And having healthy, sustainable relationships with those contacts matters now more than ever. So I think networking is key if you are trying to get a job in this market right now. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's primarily going to be online and over the phone networking right now, for understandable reasons. Many people, are not comfortable grabbing coffee right now. And it's probably not advised from a safety perspective. It's probably better to maintain social distancing. So, having that LinkedIn profile incredibly up to date, matching your resume, having, companies that you're interested in following, and getting really confident in sending cold messages on LinkedIn to new contacts. But before you do any of that, start with who you already know. Start with that inner circle. Start with those warm leads. Who are professors that you can check back in with? Who are past intern bosses that you can check back in with? Who are people in the industry that are working and still have their jobs that you can check in with about what's going on at their company and with their friends' companies and other people that they know. And it's letting people know, hey, I'm in the market. This is what I'm looking for, but this is also the other things that I'm open to. Do you have a few minutes where I could hop on the phone with you very quickly? I'd love to catch up with you, hear how you're doing, check on you, make sure you and your family are doing okay, hear how you're doing. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to share a little bit of what I'm going through in case you may know of an opportunity. It's really important to remember that networking is a two-way street. It's not just about asking and asking and asking. You also have to give. You have to have something that you can give in return to that person who is helping you. So thinking about who can I connect this person with that would make sense for their career journey or things that they need right now. So starting with those people, checking back in with intern bosses, asking how they're doing and seeing what opportunities exist there. See if there are people on LinkedIn that your contacts are connected to that could do an introduction for you via LinkedIn or via email. Be very considerate of everyone's time right now. People are working from home with kids, with other family circumstances. They're not kind of in their focused environment that they're used to. So time is incredibly valuable right now. So if you're having a networking call or a networking Zoom meeting or FaceTime meeting, have your questions ready. You do want it to be a natural conversation, but know what are you trying to ask from this person? What are your goals for this conversation? And then knowing who they are, what could you give back to them? Who's a contact you could introduce them to? Or what is a way that you could potentially thank them? If you can keep it to about 15 to 20 minutes, a quick but effective check-in, I would highly recommend that. Hour-long coffee meetings and hour-long phone calls just are not going to happen right now the way that they maybe did before the pandemic. But to me, my phone every day is blowing up with people. Hey, Rachel, my company, they just laid me off. I know you work in recruiting. I'd greatly appreciate it if I could send your resume. And I have people sending me resumes left and right, and I'm doing my best to connect people, but you got to be willing to make the ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help right now. We are all asking for help right now, but your network has never been more valuable than it is right now.
Thank you.
I'll just quickly echo the point of do not be afraid to ask for help. Anyone working in entertainment in particular is there because someone helped them along the way. And most industry professionals are really, really interested in investing in others that are coming along behind them in the journey. particularly in this season. There is so much empathy right now for recent grads in particular, or people that were kind of just getting their footing in a career and then got laid off from the perfect first job because of a situation just so out of any of our control. So this is your moment. If you're a recent grad, if you've been laid off for whatever reason that you're finding yourself in the job market, do not hesitate to ask for help. Be respectful of time and all of those things that Rachel was encouraging, but don't be afraid, because people really, really do want to invest in others because they know how important it was for them when they were in exactly the same spot.
Thank you. For those that have joined late, if you all have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature and we'll sprinkle those in throughout, and we'll leave a little bit of time at the end also. My next question, obviously there are so many people applying for jobs right now. So lots of applications are coming in. When is the appropriate time to follow up after you've applied for a job?
I will say normally we advise about a week to send a follow-up. Ideally, you will have already had a contact at that company where you've reached out maybe to an alum working there and can sort of get more information about the process. But typically about a week. As Rachel mentioned earlier, be respectful of the fact that many people are working from home. It might take them a little bit longer to get back to you. They might have kids at home, have other things going on. But also don't be discouraged if you don't hear back immediately. Normally a hiring process can take anywhere from 4 weeks to a couple months. Things might be moving a little bit slower right now with people trying to work from home, maybe transition back to the office depending on their industry, trying to get back to the number of people following up. But on the other hand, a lot of people won't do any kind of follow-up. And so that's where it is really helpful to be proactive and show that you're really excited and interested in that opportunity. And, take that time where maybe you've not heard back to maybe reach out if there are alumni working for that company to see if they'll be willing to jump on a call with you where you can learn more about the organization. Not to further pitch yourself for the position, but just to learn and take interest in that company. And then when you do send a follow-up, you can say, I've spent the last week talking to several alumni from Belmont working in this department. Really feel like this would be a great fit for me because X, Y, Z, look forward to hearing back from you. And I think that's going to come across a lot better than just, hey, following up to see if you've had time to look at my application.
As things are virtual these days, what tips do you have for video interviews? Because in-person interviews are probably happening less and less nowadays.
This is another thing that there are great worksheets and resources available throughout the university for people to review. I think there is, unfortunately, a very big misconception that video interviews are not as formal as in-person interviews, and that in general, pre-pandemic, incorrect. Now in this pandemic life, incredibly incorrect. They are just as formal as an in-person. So everything from how you dress, being aware that still to dress the way that you would if you were going into the office to meet with them, top and bottom. So as comfy as yoga pants or sweatpants may be, and how we all have loved probably that being our uniform these past couple of months, when you are in the middle of an interview on video, I always tell people, you never know what can happen. An earthquake can hit. Hopefully not, but it could. You may have to stand up all of a sudden. We may see the pants that you're wearing. Make sure that you are fully dressed head to toe in a professional manner. Arrive early, check your microphone, check your camera, check your Wi-Fi signal, check your background, make sure that there's not a television on or loud music playing, or if you have an adorable puppy, that they're in another room, so if they start barking, it's not incredibly distracting. we are showing a lot more leniency right now than ever before in some of those areas of like a distracting background, because we know people are at home. We know people have children. We know that things are not quite what they used to be, but as best as possible, try to have a professional, quiet looking background behind you that keeps the focus on you and limits the eyes wandering around to the different things that may be happening behind you. Also know that if you are given an interview time, give it at least right now, and this may sound extreme, at least 15 minutes after that time to wait for your interviewer to come into the portal as well. With working from home and the challenges that that brings, interviews are running late right now. They just are. And so you arrive early to the portal for your interview. You be by your computer, you have your laptop plugged in because video chats use a lot of battery. But don't panic if, you know, your interview's at 2 and it's 2:05 and you still haven't, no one's there. When it gets 15 minutes past, I would recommend sending a quick check-in email just saying, hi, just wanted to verify that we are still having our interview today. I'm ready to go, but if something has come up for you, please let me know and I would be happy to reschedule. Flexibility and being willing to be adaptable and flexible goes a long way right now as we're all navigating this. And I would just say, you know, treat this as much as an in-person interview as you can. Look at that little dot. Do not look at the screen. If you're looking at the screen, you're actually slightly looking down on the person that you're talking to. Look at the dot. Look exactly at the camera. If you need to put stickers around the camera to remind your eyes to go there and not the screen when you're talking, that can be helpful, and we never see that. But video interviews are the go-to. Phone interviews are still happening, but culture is such a big deal for most companies. They want to see your face. They want to see your expressions. So make sure that in every way, treat it like an in-person interview right now.
Awesome.
I'll also say, I think this is common sense, but make sure you test your technology beforehand with a friend or family member, and then have a backup plan. You know, if you were on a desktop or a laptop, if something happens, you know, if you have a phone or iPad nearby, some other way to access the meeting, and have an email pulled up just in case you need to email and let them know, you know, something has come up, just to be prepared if your technology fails you.
Absolutely. We've had a couple questions come through on the chat feature, so I'm going to get to those first. Charlie asked, what is the best way to find alumni that you're not already connected to in a certain city, in a certain industry or company? So how do you locate alums that you don't know?
Again, LinkedIn is a fantastic resource for that. If you were looking at your LinkedIn home screen, there is a section where you can select people, and it will allow you to start filtering down from there. So you can add filters like location, you know, if you're job searching in New York, and then you can add those industry filters again. So again, for entertainment, I would typically suggest entertainment, music, and performing arts. And then there is a schools filter that will allow you to pick up Belmont. And so just by adding those filters, you can get a pretty quick list of anybody working in entertainment, music, or performing arts in New York that's connected to Belmont. And then from there, you start reverse engineering to figure out how you can actually access those people, but that will give you a short list. You can also always pick a particular company. You know, if you're interested in working for Sony in Nashville or New York, you can pick Sony, that office, again, add that schools feature for Belmont and see if you can find some alums. So, so that is one pretty remarkable resource that I would suggest.
And we, you know, refer students and alums to that all the time because it's always easier to reach out to someone you have something in common with versus maybe you just see somebody in this position at this company and you want to talk to them. They're going to be much more likely to respond to you if you relate, you know, how you found them and why you're reaching out. You notice you're also a Belmont alum. I'm a current English major. I just graduated from the English program. Really interested in learning more about your job at XYZ company. Do you have 15 or 20 minutes to talk to me over the phone so I can learn more about what you do? The other thing would be, you know, filtering by alumni, but as Nina mentioned, you can look at a particular company and see if you have second degree connections there. That will allow you to see who you share in common, that you could reach out to Rachel and say, hi, Rachel, notice that you're connected to so-and-so at this company. Really interested in talking to them to learn more about what they do. Do you mind providing me an introduction over email? It's one really important point about networking and reaching out virtually is that you don't want to reach out and ask if they know of any jobs available, because that will usually close the door. There are quite a fewer jobs out there right now, and over the last few weeks, I know in Nashville there were 1,000 new jobs announced over the last week, which is great. Like, hopefully things are on the up and up, but you're seeing less postings out there online. And so, those people might also be at companies where they have a hiring freeze. You never know. So reaching out and asking for that information and for their story is going to get you a much better information and a better relationship with that person versus if you just are pointed and say, do you know of any jobs?
We had another question. Any advice for someone whose career is already at a mid or senior level? Any tips for connecting the dots from your experience to an unrelated but similar industry or field?
That's a great question. The reality is the process is the process. Relationships are always going to be critical. I actually read an article this week that said that statistics indicate that 80% of jobs are a result of some sort of personal relationship. So that is entry level, that is C-suite. Those relationships really are everything. And so, it's thinking through, if you're a mid-level person, your network is probably a little bit stronger. You've been in your field a bit longer. If you are thinking about changing fields, doing some sort of a pivot during this time, it's an amazing opportunity to reach out to people that are doing the thing that you think you might want to do. Start, having conversations, learning more, finding out where they are gathering, where they're talking to other people about positions, learning if there are particular skills that you should be picking up in this area to help you make that pivot. But really the steps are the steps. It's researching, it's building a targeted strategy for outreach, and really, really pursuing and developing those relationships.
And just to echo what Nina is saying, the process is the process. And I will say that for the most part, typically skill sets are also skill sets, and not to be afraid if you've been in a more kind of targeted type of job where you feel like it's very specific and you're not sure how what you've been doing could relate to other jobs. Remember that there are a lot of skill sets that you do on a daily basis, from database work, email work, marketing, networking, those incredible soft skills that you have gained such valuable experience in, emotional intelligence. Every industry needs that. So, I mean, I've counseled a young woman who had been in A&R for like 15 years and was looking to make a complete transition out of the music industry, out of A&R, but she felt like A&R was so specific. Why would another company in another industry ever be interested in her? But when we really broke down what she was doing on a day-to-day basis, and I mean, very, very grainy, like I send emails, I make phone calls, I host meetings. There are so many other industries that require those same skill sets, but she had 15 years of finesse behind those skill sets that she could offer to someone else. So if you are thinking that now may be the time to make a transition, I just encourage you to dive into it and don't be afraid of it. Even if you feel like your path is, maybe some people jump a lot in their careers. They do something in this industry, then they jump here for a few years. That's okay too. The days of people working in the same job in the same industry for 30 plus years, long gone. They were great days, but that's just not where we are anymore. We see people jumping and trying different interests all the time now. It's how you word those transitions on the resume, showing the personal and professional growth and why, and being able to talk through why those transitions were important to you and how they helped you get to where you are today, and how all of that experience makes you of such huge value to that potential employer. And like Nina said, talking to people that are actively doing those jobs that you are considering, interview them. Really ask them, what is your day like? What are the skill sets that you use on a daily basis that make you the most successful in this job? And then compare that to your journey. And do you possess some of those skill sets? And does that sound exciting to you? And remember, as recruiters, as hiring managers, we don't expect you to be perfect day one. We expect there to be a learning curve. You should always want there to be a learning curve in a new job. You never ever want to stop learning. That's when things get boring, and that's when we move on. So don't be afraid of things that are a little bit new, and really just utilizing that network. Again, we're going to say it 8 million times, but who's that network, and who are people that can help you through this process right now?
Well, we are starting to wind down on time, so we're going to rapid fire a couple more questions, a couple that have come through, and then a couple more that I have. Beth asked, do you have any tips for establishing a network in a new city during these times? So maybe someone has just moved and doesn't know anyone.
Yeah, I think, as Nina mentioned, starting with LinkedIn, looking to see what Belmont alums are there. Maybe you were part of an organization at Belmont or in your prior city where you could connect to that local chapter and make some connections. Talk to the alumni office to see how they can help you get connected in that city. And then research those professional associations and organizations where you can plug in and start going to networking meetings, whether they be virtual right now. Those are great ways to get started.
Okay, Martin asked, personally, I need to start making an income right now while I'm applying to industry jobs in the meantime. What are your thoughts about random online work such as taking surveys, transcribing videos, proofreading, focus groups, et cetera, et cetera? Are there better ways to start making money online?
I will say, just to start, I'm sure we'll probably all have a tidbit for this one. You absolutely, if you need to make money right now, whatever that looks like for you, I think is fair game and okay right now. If an opportunity online somehow can coincide skill set wise with ideally what you're hoping to do in applying to these jobs, I would maybe target those first, so that you are continuing to build on valuable skill sets that you will use in the jobs that you're actively targeting. But there's going to be a lot of leniency from oh, that's an interesting choice. Why did you choose to do that job right now? Because a lot of people are in that boat where we just need work, and, take pride in any work that you have right now and have great ownership of that. And just know, like, as long as you are surviving and making it through, you are doing a great job. So I think if you can get an online job to help you pay those bills right now, if it can somewhat be related to a skill set that you'll use, that's great. But I wouldn't worry too much if it's completely random, if it's helping you to pay your bills right now.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is be a little cautious. There are some things that you'll see through LinkedIn that are pyramid schemes, or, just a little bit sketchy. So if you are finding something online, just make sure you're asking really good questions. Make sure you have an opportunity somewhere in the process to ideally have a conversation with a person rather than having everything just happen online. You don't want to give away your social security number in order to get paid and then find out that it really wasn't a legitimate opportunity after all. So just be a little bit cautious and make sure you do your research and how you find those opportunities. But I think as we go forward, there's going to be a golden halo over some period of time when recruiters see anything on your resume. And if it doesn't feel particularly consistent with everything else that you're going for, they're going to think, oh, when was that? Oh, and all bets will be off. So I would do whatever you need to do through this season.
Let's see. What's the best way for a candidate to stand out in the application and interview process, especially when there are so many job seekers right now?
I would say there are two things that immediately come to mind. The first would be to show that you've done your research and you've attempted to learn about that internal culture by talking to people who work there. And the second would be show enthusiasm. Employers want to hire people who really are excited to go to work, who are excited to work for that particular company because of their mission and their values. So show that you're excited about the job, and that's definitely going to win out over someone who shows less enthusiasm.
I would also say very specific application materials. So it's very, very obvious when I get a resume that someone is sending out to 50 other companies and it's very generic. Whereas when someone's taking the time to write a very specific cover letter to the company that I'm hiring for, talking about their culture, talking about how this job particularly could build on skill sets that they've had, people that they know at that company, I'm always, always going to take a look at the more specific applications first, because that tells me you value my time. You took time to see how you can invest in this company. I'm now going to take time to see if you are right for this company. So looking for a job is a full-time job, whether it's a pandemic or not. It's a lot of work. It's well worth it though, because it makes a very strong impression. The more specific those documents are, it shows that enthusiasm for the company even before they get you on the phone. And then you can continue that once you're in the interview process.
And if you have someone who's willing to be an advocate for you within the company, utilize it. It is critical to put those contact names in your cover letter. And then ideally, you always want to apply the way the company has told you to. So if they say apply online or through LinkedIn, make sure you're in their system. But then if you've got an advocate that's also willing to pull you out of that system and get you directly into the hands of the recruiter or the hiring manager, that is invaluable in the process. So if you know anyone who's willing to serve in that capacity for you, you just can't match that.
Awesome. Well, I think we've hit all of our questions and all the questions that have come through from attendees. I want to give each of you an opportunity to just share some parting words, some last advice for job seekers, whether they are new to the workforce or whether they have been laid off and are somewhere mid-career looking for a job right now.
I'll say keep your spirits up. I know it's hard. Take advantage of your resources. If you're here, like I mentioned, we serve alumni for life. You can connect to your specialist through our website and find their email, log into Handshake and schedule an appointment with your dedicated specialist. We're here to help you through that transition. And we serve all majors are able to access career resources after graduation. And the other thing is to be proactive right now. You really take the time to reflect on what it is you're interested in, whether you just graduated or you're 20 years out, and looking at what does my next step look like from here. And then really take time to reach out to people within your network and in the area where you're wanting to work and make those connections. It's going to pay off even more so now than during normal times.
I would say two things. First of all, allow yourself to grieve, whether you've been laid off or just simply graduation didn't look like you thought. All of these things, allow yourself some room to grieve that this part of your journey doesn't look anything like you thought it was going to. And the fact that you're not alone, there's some comfort in that, but that doesn't mean that you need to dismiss the individual story that you have going on. Losing a job or not being able to find a job right after graduation is really, really hard. So give yourself the grace and the freedom and the room to feel that. And then get going and focus on the things that you can control. There is so much out of control for all of us right now, but focus on the things that you can control, because there really are, there's so much work to be done. Some of it that you can do from behind your computer, some that you're going to have to figure out creative ways to approach differently. But there is a lot of work that you can be doing on your job search process. So focus on what you can control rather than worrying about the things that you can't.
I would say my two things are, first and foremost, remember to take care of yourself right now, your whole self, your mental health, your spiritual health. You are not able to do all the things that are required of us right now if you are not taking care of yourself first. And it can be really hard mentally these days, I feel like, to even make it through the day with all the things that are going on. So make sure that you're checking in with your personal heroes and the people that build you up and encourage you, remembering, like Nina said, that you are not alone. We are all in this together. We may be in different phases of this journey, but those of us that are in one place want to help the other ones that are trying to get to another place. So don't be afraid to ask for that help. And just please be encouraged that you do not have to start your career journey in your ideal job. Very few people do, pandemic or not, to be quite honest with you. Most entry-level jobs are not the end goal job, right? But they're a stepping stone to get to where you want. So don't be afraid to step out of what your ideal picture may have been. And if you are someone that is mid to senior level in your career and facing completely unexpected changes right now, this may be the best thing career-wise that has ever happened, because sometimes in times of unexpected struggle, that's when creativity and great opportunity can come from that. And so see if there's something you've really wanted to do in your career, but before this maybe never had the opportunity to, and is now the time to take that leap and go after that thing that's been in the back of your head for 5-6 years now that you've always wanted to do. Now's the best time and ever to take that on, because a lot of people are trying new things right now. And again, you'll have that support system. You're not alone, but this will end. This is not going to last forever, but all of you through Belmont, through your families, and through networks of friends and professionals have a great amount of people that care about you and want to help you through this. So please always, always remember that there is someone just a phone call or a text away that is going to help you.
Absolutely. Well, Rachel, and Nina, we are so thankful for your time and expertise and great advice. And then everyone that tuned in, thank you so much for spending your hour with us. As we've mentioned throughout the webinar, the Alumni Association and Office of Career and Professional Development is here for you always. So please feel free to reach out. We are cheering you on and we are with you in this season. And we will send out a link to this recording and then some other resources